Judy.
Hey, Mercedes.
So all I said so far was that April marks Stress Awareness Month,
Yes, it
and
does.
I didn't know that until you said it that this is Stress Awareness Month. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start by saying, first of all, for the people who don't know, Dr. D and I met a few years ago on Iyanla Fix My Life, and she has
Shout out to Yana.
shout out.
Talked to her today. She wished us luck.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Well, you definitely helped fix my life in more than one way. So I'm grateful to share you with my community. I'm grateful to meet your community. And I think this is going to do some magic. So, first, I wanted to say, okay, I didn't know it was Stress Awareness Month, but why do people need to be aware that they're stressed? Like, do we not know that we're stressed in our
I
every?
don't think that it's really about being aware that we're stressed. I think it's really about being aware of what stress does to us, of what brings us stress, of how we can manage our stress. I think the one thing we do know is that we're stressed. That's the one thing everybody seems to be clear about. But when you ask people where is the stress coming from, how are they contributing to their own stress? That's the question nobody wants to answer. How can they cope with that stress? How can they create situations that prevent them from feeling that kind of stress consistently and chronically? Those are the kinds of conversations that we're not really having a lot of. That's what I think Stress Awareness Month is helpful for, is getting everybody on that same page, having those conversations, using the same language, having the same takeaways.
That's fair. So you mentioned two things in what you just said, that a what is stressing us, and being aware of how it affects us. So with we took a poll last week when I told people that we were going to be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
A poll on my Instagram, and I've labeled it work, family, school, life be lifing.
Mm-hmm.
So majority of the people in my Instagram stories voted life be lifing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the number one. So the fact that I felt like, to me, in my opinion, I feel like some people can't even put into words where their
Yeah.
stress comes from,
Yeah.
because I had covered all the bases. It's either coming from work, it's coming from school, it's coming from family. Like, what exactly is stressing you? And I've been in that place before too, where I'm just like, I'm just overwhelmed.
Yeah. You know, this is just me and doing my work, but my experience has been if you can't name it, it's you. You know what I mean? Because when life comes at us with very difficult things that we couldn't predict, and that does happen, right? We can often say, I lost somebody, or um, my job, or this particular situation or that particular situation. It's a lot easier to name it when it comes out of nowhere and it's something unexpected. But I think what has happened is we've become so accustomed to dealing with stress,
Mm.
and we've upped the ante and we've upped our tolerance for it. And so now we have these stress filled lives to the point where every piece of it is so stressful that we can't even pinpoint what's
Where's
the thing that's causing the stress, right? So if all of the choices and situations in your life are stressing you out, the common denominator is you. You know what I mean? Like,
So you can tell me that work is
I'm just
stressing
saying.
me out? Yes, my mama is stressing me out. People pulling at me from different angles, and it's me. I got to own.
I'm saying there might be something you're doing to contribute to either how you pick your situations, how you process your situations, how you heal or don't heal from those situations. And that doesn't make anybody wrong, right? Stress is a very, very common factor of our lives, and not something that we're taught to deal with, not something that we're given a lot of tools to manage, not something that we often know how to control. So I'm not making anybody wrong. I did it for millions of years in my life, just taking on stressful situations, taking on more stressful situations, and not realizing that the way I'm contributing to my own stress is by picking situations that I know are going to be stressful
Mm.
and saying, oh, but no, but once I'm in it, it'll be different, right? Like, oh yeah, but no, he won't be that way for me, right? Or that job, but no, I can do it, right? Or that, right? Like thinking of myself as the exception in all of these situations and then taking them on and then realizing they're having a detrimental impact on my well-being, right?
Yeah.
So part of what I've had to do is look at how do I take responsibility for the role I play in my own stress. And
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that outside forces aren't
Contribute.
contributing, and that doesn't mean that other people are not also don't also need to be addressed, right? As that's not what I'm saying, but we play a role. We play a role on what we let in and how we deal with it.
Okay, so one thing in particular, I know a lot of people in my industry right now, um, where a lot of people I know are stressed because of a lack of work. So it's, I guess the pinpoint is not necessarily that it's a lack of work, but the fact that the snowball falls, and now because of a lack of work, I'm stressed about how I'm going to pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
About, I'm at home doing nothing and I'm stressed. So even in the stillness,
Mm-hmm.
there's some stress there, and this
Yeah.
anxiety, like what's next.
The
So
uncertainty.
yeah, for
Right?
sure.
Yeah.
I,
I'm with you.
how do you? Because I just feel like stress is not my birthright, so I should not be stressed.
Right. Well, there are positive aspects of stress, right? Stress gets us vigilant, right? And it can be helpful in us intentionally planning our lives. And then there are negative parts where where we're basically in distress, right? And we have to figure out how to de-stress. So I think what you're saying, which is work, is a really common example of where people feel stressed because they have no
Mm-hmm.
control over it, right? And that's a thing that we often are triggered by, is that lack of control. If we're feeling like we're out of control over a situation, then we're feeling like the hopelessness, the helplessness, all of that sets in, right? So with the industry and the uncertainty of the industry, the conversation is not about, yes, 100%. That's a stressful situation. I feel it, you feel it, everybody's feeling it. So, absolutely, it's a stressful situation. The conversation is really about how do I manage my stress,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I find myself in these situations, what can I do differently so that I'm not dependent on an industry that's uncertain, so that I'm not sitting around in my stillness and feeling like it's unsatisfying, so that I'm not creating relationships that are in highs and lows, and then when I'm still, they're absent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are the questions. It's not about whether or not this is a stressful, right? That
Is that to be tied in with like just the perception that you want to portray, like how you want people to perceive you? Like I think image is like, if I'm focused that hard on an image, that comes across as like, is that an insecurity because I just want people to perceive me in a certain way,
sometimes,
or
you
comparison?
know, yeah, I think we're all constantly, right? We're all constantly feeding this presentation of self, right? Where we, in everything that we say and everything that we do, we're putting forth the the representative, right? The person, the persona that we believe best depicts either who we are or who we're trying to be, right? So I think we're all doing that at all times in all ways. I think the question when we talk about stress that really comes up is how attached are you to it, right? Can you see the pieces of it that are not real? Can you play with it, right? Can you use it, or are you used up by it? Does it define you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it actually create pressure and stress in your life, right? I joke about these lashes all day, and I'm not attached, right, to that piece of it. But there are certainly pieces of my image that I am attached to, right? Of feeling helpful, of seeming helpful, right? That I have to question. Wait, where's that attachment? Hold on. What is that creating stress? Is that creating pressure? Is that creating a false consciousness? Is that creating ego, right? Because all of that stuff will create stress in your life. So part of what's important for us to constantly be challenging is how attached we become to the image that we're trying to put out of ourselves, of what we do, of who we are, of how we look, of all
Yeah.
that stuff.
One of another poll that I did on Instagram was how people manage their stress, and one that really flew off the charts, most people said spend time alone. So spending time alone
Okay.
by far, shot up that people would rather be by themselves when they're stressed. Other than, I think the other options were to uh like self-soothing or anxiety. People, only one person said that they get anxious when they're stressed, which I thought was interesting because I thought a lot of people, to me, I think stress and anxiety kind of go hand in hand, but I could be
Mm-hmm.
wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
spending time alone was off the charts as far as a vote.
That's so interesting. That's very interesting because so I'm a little bit of a loner too, right? So I like being alone. But when you say that, one of the things that I wonder, is not a statement, it's just a curiosity, is how their relationships are. Because I could see where for some people it's soothing to be alone because the relationships are so hard to manage,
Mm.
right?
That,
So the relationships are stressful. And the best way to feel de-stressed is to feel yourself out of them, you know. And I'm not saying that's true for all of them, and I'm not saying I don't know the specifics. But I definitely could see how that would play a role, because I definitely have clients, and I know people who are people pleasers, for instance, who kind of don't know how to say no, or don't feel comfortable saying no, and so at the end of the day they're so tapped out
yeah,
that the only way for them to have any peace is to close themselves off from other people, because they don't know how to set that boundary. They don't know how to draw that line. So I wonder, I mean, it's just a curiosity. Like, if you find yourself happier alone, you know, maybe ask yourself, are my relationships kind of draining me? It's not always the case, but it could be.
that's fair. So, in terms of anxiety and stress, why do they feel so similar? Because to me, it feels very similar when I'm anxious and when I'm stressed.
Mm-hmm.
It,
I think,
it feels like they go.
yeah, I do think they go hand in hand. When I'm stressed, it depends, right? So I can be anxious about something that's not stressing me, right? I'm just anticipating it, right?
Yeah,
But it may not be something that I find stressful. So the anxiety can come without that. And the same is true, right? I can be stressed out about something, but I'm not necessarily anxious about it, because it may not be going anywhere. It may not be anything that can be changed. I may not be anticipating anything. I may just be sitting in it. It just may be heavy, right? So I think they can live apart, but I do think that people often feel them at the same time, because when you're stressed, you want to do something about it.
yeah,
It's so difficult to sit in the discomfort of stress, right? And just be with it. And so oftentimes what makes us feel nervous, what makes us feel have that anxious energy, is that desire to do something about the stress, right? And then when you can't, you don't know what to do with the energy. You don't know where to put it, right? So I think that they can often go hand in hand, but I don't think they have to. Sitting in discomfort is not an easy thing to do
no, it's not.
at all. There's,
No,
and
it's
and
not.
and I still struggle with it. And I don't think listen, you meet anybody who doesn't, let me know.
Yeah,
Because I think it's difficult for everyone. But I do think the more you're willing to do it, the easier it becomes. And I think there's a difference between sitting in the discomfort short term so that you can live through it, process it, be with it, and come out of it, and raising your tolerance for discomfort, where you're constantly in chaos and constantly in toxicity, because you're not necessarily sitting in it or sitting with it, you're moving around in it, right? You're moving with it. And I think people do that and they think they're okay, but you're just changing the norm,
yeah.
you know?
You said something earlier when you were saying that a lot of people, we're so used to living with stress at this point that we can't even gauge what peace looks like at this point. Like, you're just so used to operating in a high stress situation that you're, so how does that even affect us in the body though?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just used to staying.
All the time, right? in
Yeah,
this in this fight or flight, right? So we have all this cortisol and all of this adrenaline that's constantly being released because you believe there's a threat, right? Because your brain is processing whatever that stressful situation is as a threat. And so now your entire system is constantly filled with cortisol and adrenaline, right? And that's why you have all of these really dangerous aspects of stress, right? Hypertension, diabetes, all
That's
of these.
the thing. Because, I'm sorry to cut you, but
No,
yes,
yeah.
they say stress kills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is, you hear about stress, and they're like, stress is one of the number one
Killers.
killers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
go ahead.
No, that's it. So I feel like, it speaks for itself. Like we're not meant to live in that constant state of vigilance, right? It's good to be able to have it, to be able to lean on it, to depend on it, to know when a situation feels off, or know when there's a threat, or know that you have to move in a different direction or in a different way, right? It's an alarm system, and that's helpful. It is not helpful to live in it so often that it becomes the constant, right? And it's your background noise. That alarm system is just the background noise constantly. um because then you're always vigilant, then you
Yeah.
can never relax, right? And I know a lot of people who not only live like this, they think they have to, right? They
Mm.
think they have to because this is why I'm so successful. I hear all the time, this is why I'm so successful, because I'm always working, because you never know,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you hear that all the time. You hear people who live in stressful situations. And then one of the things we do is we reframe it as a strength, right? Or I can get through anything. Nothing stresses me out. Looking at me like everything is stressing you out. You know what
It's
I'm
all over you.
saying?
It's all over you,
Right,
boo. It's all over you.
right, right. So, I think that we pick up these sort of survival techniques, right? These defense mechanisms to justify and color how we create and manage the stress in our lives. Um,
Okay, so I have some scenarios here that
okay.
people have, that most people deal with stress, and you tell me. So this is
All
called what you
right.
stress
I
or
got
success.
my tea.
Yes.
Let's talk it through.
So this is called stress or success.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll play out the situation, and you tell me if this is stress, a negative stress that's draining your energy, or is this success, a challenge that leads to growth?
Right. So distress or eustress, right?
Okay,
Okay,
fair.
go for it.
So
Okay.
I get a promotion at my job, but now the workload has doubled. Is this a sign of success or extra stress?
I think it depends. So this is going to be my answer to all of these questions, right? It depends how it feels to you, right?
Mm,
If my work doubles, but I enjoy it, and I feel like I'm being adequately compensated and rewarded for it, and I feel like it's in line with my purpose, right? I'll work harder.
mm,
That's not a problem. But if I'm at work now doing more work, and the work was already stressing me out, you know what I mean? Like, at this point, all I've added is more work. And you have to ask yourself, is the compensation, and I don't just mean monetary, is the compensation worth the cost? Right? So that's the question that I would ask myself. Because for me, is the money good? Is
mm-hmm,
the work fulfilling? But more than anything, and you and I talk about this all the time, is it in alignment with my purpose?
mm. Does it equate when it, because we can feel when it's not in alignment with our purpose, and when it feels, that's when it feels draining.
That's when it feels draining. Yep. Yep. I
Okay.
have worked much less in situations that were out of alignment and been much more tired.
Mm, oh,
Much more tired. And I have worked harder in situations with which I was like spiritually and soulfully aligned and had energy for days.
days could go on.
For
It could next day.
days, right?
Clock.
So you really, you need to be honest with yourself about how you're lining up with the work you're doing.
How does
Now,
it feel? That's good.
I will
Um,
say this. The caveat there is ask yourself over and over, because we lie.
to
You know what I'm
ourselves.
saying? To ourselves.
To ourselves. I've been there. I've been there,
Oh,
Dr. Z. I think
Oh, we all
my,
have.
my profession is can be very stressful. It can be very demanding. And I was definitely on the hamster wheel of overachieving and on that success wheel, trying to climb, climb, climb.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody, you're not happy. And I was like, what you talking about? I work in television. I get to travel and I get to, because I had told myself that these things, these perks that come with this position should make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was drained to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me step back and reassess. Am I
Mm-hmm.
actually, how do I feel? To your point, how do I actually feel?
Mm-hmm.
That'll
Mm-hmm.
tell me.
And why do I why did I think this stuff would be it?
Mm,
Right? Like what is that? Because a lot of our goals, and this is I tell people all the time, let's that inner child experience, that child you were at 5 or 6, there's certain things you can trust and there's certain things you can't, right? Your inner child knows what you enjoyed, right? What you really liked, what you loved doing,
mm,
coloring, playing a piano, that what you really loved, right? What it probably wasn't clear on is what you was gonna do when you grow up.
yeah,
That might not be it.
yeah,
Because one of the things we do is we fantasize and we romanticize on the basis of what we see when we're younger.
hmm,
And then when you're in those situations as an adult, they're not nearly as fulfilling as people pretended they would be. And now you're thinking there's something wrong with you. Well, why am I not happy? Because this is what I was told happiness would look like, right?
right,
But that's not about you not being happy in a situation where you should be. That's about you having taken the word of other people that they were happy when they weren't either. And we just were never taught to say that.
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, that doesn't mean we can't have great, fulfilling, satisfying television careers, but television is definitely one of those industries where the roles and the work is romanticized and you can fantasize about it. And if you haven't had real experiences in it, you can find yourself thinking it's something it is
yeah,
not,
yeah,
right? So you have to give yourself the space as you're an adult and dealing with these new experiences to learn new things about those things and redefine your goals and redefine your vision for yourself and be able to say like, no, maybe I just want to sell, cupcakes at a farmer's
Maybe I
market.
just want to teach Pilates.
Maybe you just want to teach Pilates, right?
All of
So
that,
the
yes. So,
viewers, I'm gonna learn Pilates at some point. I
yes,
ain't gonna be down.
it,
It's probably after the lash
it
thing,
is my,
but at some point.
it is my thing. We will talk
Yes.
about that. We will talk about that. Okay, so another one here. I finally quit a toxic job, but now I feel lost.
Mm, that's good.
Ooh.
That is
Okay.
so good. Let me tell you why that's good. Because you could replace the word job with anything there. For the
I
toxic
finally
man, walked away from a toxic family,
mm,
stopped a toxic
but
habit,
now
right?
I
Because it's so easy to become attached to poison.
feel,
Poison is so addictive, right? Especially because it's really yummy stuff for our ego, right? Because as bad and as toxic as something is, if we're good, ooh, how we like to hold on to the fact that we're better than the situation we're in,
mm,
right? And feed the ego of this thing is the problem,
mm-hmm.
right? This other person, the job, the this, right? That's the problem. That's, we just complain about that, right? And we never have to look at us, right? But then when you walk away
Ooh.
and you still unhappy,
Oh, wait a minute. Because
right?
whose fault is it now?
Right, right.
So,
So
so
how I know, ask me how do I know, right?
how
Because
so?
we all have done this. We
Yeah.
all have done this. We've all been in a relationship with somebody that we convinced ourselves was the problem,
Yeah.
right? We all been at a job that we convinced ourselves, didn't deserve us, right? We're better than that job. They're gonna miss us when we leave, and that all of that stuff might be true. But when you walk away from the toxicity, you really have to look at yourself in a different way than you look at yourself when you're toxic adjacent, and there's
Yes.
something else that's more the problem,
Yes.
right? So this is so good,
Mm, mm,
right? So here's what I would say. First, part of it is just the detox, right? When you come out of any toxic situation, you need a moment to breathe and sit and think and process and grieve, right? And do all of the things that come with leaving anything, and especially leaving something that was sucking the life out of you, right?
mm,
So give yourself that time. Give
right.
yourself the time to really sit with it, sit in it, think about it, talk about it, journal about it, pray about it, breathe. Just
Mm,
breathe, boo. Just breathe.
mm,
We don't breathe at all. So really sitting with it and sitting in it, all of that is important to detoxify, to just get it out of your system, right? So that's going to be a while. And then the second thing that I think is the thing to do if you're feeling lost, right? After you start to process all the pain of it, is really start looking at yourself.
mhm.
How did I end up there? What I learned there? What did I lose there? Right? Because all of that you have to start to repair, you know? So how did I get there? What did I learn there? What did I lose there? Those are some really important key questions when you first leave a toxic situation, to figure out, like, okay, there's a pattern. There's some way I ended up there.
Yeah.
I need to start thinking that through. I stayed for a reason. Why did I stay? I need to think that through. What did I lose? What did this situation take from me? Because that happens in toxic situations. You need to repair that, right? What did I learn? Because there's always a lesson that you can
Mhm.
take from it. So what's available to you, right, in the way of insight and wisdom, and then move. So if you
Mm,
feel lost, which most of us do when we come out of a situation, it's because you're not ready to move.
mm, mm.
You're not ready to move. And that's okay. Stop trying to move. Sit for a second.
So you saying, okay, let's say I left this toxic man. Now I feel lost. Usually the pattern is run back to that toxic man.
Or to some other toxic man or something. Right?
Right. But you're saying to take a
Take a
minute to
minute. Take a
detox and
minute and detox.
got to that situation.
Yes.
And,
Detox and calibrate.
mm,
Detox
and
and calibrate.
then you can calibrate. Now
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can reset.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one for this stress and success edition. My family always expects me to be the one to help.
I feel attacked.
And is that from the high achieving people? I think if you're the one in the family that did the thing that a lot of other people in the family have not done, whether that's graduate, whether that's went on to do whatever number of things, my family always expects me to be the one to help.
I'm going to answer this question the way I've been answering all the questions. How did you contribute to your stress? So
Mm-hmm.
if this is your stress, how did you contribute to this, right? There are things we do. I know this one very well. There are things we do. We don't ask for help, right? And then people are convinced that we don't need help because we didn't ask for help. And then we resent not getting the help we didn't ask for. What is that? Why are we doing that, right?
Right.
We set it up so that when other people have an issue, we're all in their business. We can't mind our business for nothing,
Right.
right? So we're all in other people's business trying to figure out what they need to do, how they need to move, to the point where they just step back and let us do it, because who wants to fight with that energy, right?
Right.
So now it's on us, which we will complain about also, right? We put ourselves in situations where um we're right, we're the experts, we know, right? And then we feed other people's insecurities because they may not know, or they may not feel confident in that. They don't want to be a part of that conversation. right? So there's all of these things that we do that create the image, right? That we are helpers, right? But it's an image. It's an image. It's a way that we want to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
right? As helpers. And then we forget to say, oh, by the way, I also need help. I say I need help all the time now, but that was not a strength of mine for a very long time, right?
Right.
So being able to just be like, yeah, I also need help, or I also need this, or you're gonna have to do that without me, or I can't do it, or I don't want to, right? Not always being the reliable person and taking the loss on it and just being okay with what they say about you, not always showing up and being okay when people say something or when you hurt somebody's feelings or with the guilt that you feel about not being present, right? But shifting the narrative of you will always be there and you will always be right and you will always be able to help, right? Shifting that slowly with different decisions and different choices so that you're not people's go-to person when they need something. And
Mm.
you're not the person they think can figure this out, right? I tell people all the time now, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or I'm not going to make it, or I don't want to be there, or whatever the situation is.
But the guilt comes. What do you mean you can't be there? What? See,
Well, the
you're really my friend. You're not really looking out for me the way I look out for you. And what about that?
the guilt don't come for me no more, but it did used to. Here's the thing: you can only sell what you own, right? So if you don't own it, you
Mm,
can't sell it,
mm.
right?
So
So if
own, I don't own the guilt. I'm sorry. That's on you.
well, and this is the thing, or the boundary, right? So if I try to say no, but I don't own that no, I'm not gonna be able to sell you that no, and you ain't gonna buy it.
Oh, if I don't stand 10 toes down on that, no.
But if I own that no, that no is a no, and then you left wondering why you asked me the question. You know what I'm saying? Not me
Yeah.
wondering why I said no,
Yeah.
right? But you have to own that. You have to fully believe in that no. If you believe that you owe it to somebody to do something different, you've already undermined your own boundary,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you believe that you're not a good blank, a good girlfriend, a good sister, a good friend, a good daughter, a good whatever. If you're not a good whatever, if you set this boundary, if you go into setting that boundary thinking that, you've already compromised it, you've already lost it. So at the end of the day, it's really not about if the guilt got you. If the guilt got you, it's because you weren't fully committed. And that's okay. Not making anybody wrong. It takes a long time to be fully committed to your boundaries, and it takes a lot of practice. And sometimes while you're doing it, you just have to eat the guilt, you know. But remember that it's there because you're not fully committed.
Yeah.
So when you feel that, what you have to do is stand firmer, right? I don't mean double down. I mean stand firmer, right? So standing firmer means checking in with your purpose, aligning with why you said it. What are you protecting? What are you preserving? What are you contributing, right?
Yeah.
Where are your strengths? Where do you struggle? What are your relationships built on, right? Really looking at the entire picture so that when you say no, you're clear.
Yeah. Heard. Okay. This is the segment of how may I help you? How may I help you? So, Dr. D gets a lot of messages, mail, all that things. We're going to sort through a little bit of these and see if we can address some. We do plan to have some people tap in eventually on these Wednesdays. So we're doing this every Wednesday night in the month of April at 7
Yes.
p.m. right here on Instagram Live. So if you have questions, slide in the DMs. Hit me up if you want to join on a Wednesday and just air some stuff out because we all stressed and I don't know why we so stressed out. Well, I know why, so we're gonna get to that. So this is one message that we have for Dr. D. Hi, Dr. D. Just heard about you on Hoarders. As your books seem to deal with overachiever, do they also deal with underachieving? I fell from good jobs to homelessness to several disabilities and depression. For several years now, I've been living in a room or a rooming house, excuse me. What do you have to say for overachievers or underachievers? Well, this person said they're underachieving and they've completely fallen from grace.
Yeah. So I think there's two different types of coping, right? There's problem focused coping, excuse me, and there's emotion focused coping, right? I always talk to people who are in some of these really logistic struggles about problem first, right? So problem focused coping is really about, if the problem is that I'm homeless, I really need housing, right? If the problem is that I'm hungry, I really need food, right? Before we start talking and thinking about like, oh, but how did you get here? And what, you know what I mean? As
Yeah,
my husband likes to say, I'm drowning. Please don't describe the water. You know what I mean? So
right.
the first thing we want to do is throw a life preserver, right? So I would say get connected with your local organizations. Most not-for-profits have an arm, a leg of their organization that deals specifically with housing. City and state organizations also have housing available. So really navigating that. And if you have a difficult time navigating that, um, there are not-for-profits specifically offering case management, and find yourself a case manager who can help you navigate these other avenues. So I think that's the first thing, right? Is really the problem focused piece. The emotion focused piece is really about, how did my life turn into this,
Right.
right? How did my life turn into this? And that's not an easy question, nor does it have an easy answer, but you're gonna wanna start backtracking to, again, where did you contribute? Because there will be other things. There will be deaths, there will be um unemployment, there will be housing prices, there will be any number of social factors that influence this stress. That's there, absolutely. But the other question is, how did you contribute? And how can you contribute to doing it differently on the next round? And sometimes it's, again, simple starts, like, do I have one person that can hold me accountable? Just one that maybe I fought with, or maybe I wasn't ready to listen to, or maybe I didn't have the honest conversations with. But now I'm going to engage that person. I'm going to reach out to that person. I'm going to listen to the guidance. I'm going to be honest about what I need and what I'm struggling with, right? So it could be just a simple start of an accountability partner. It could be going to therapy. It could be seeking treatment if you have some sort of mental illness or substance abuse issue. It can be religion or faith. It can be an art class, right? Something that gets you up in the morning, gets you dressed, helps you feel a sense of purpose, some sort of creative endeavor, right? So I think the first step is really taking care of that logistic need, that lower pyramid piece, right? Of, housing and food and whatever you need there. And then the second piece is really starting to look at what you've done and can do differently that might yield a different result.
We're going to end this live. We're going to be here every Wednesday night in the month of April at 7 p.m. talking about all things stress related. It's Stress Awareness Month. Dr. D dropped some gems. If you missed it already tonight, you'll catch the replay. I'll post it up. And that's going to conclude our night. It was good. It was good. All
Thank you,
right. Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely. Okay.
All right, Mercedes.
All right. I will talk to you
Okay,
later. Have a good
okay, bye, everyone.